Sham Shardava Nalalida Loka Pranaya Karuna Ghana Ghanatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Pranaya Karuna Ghana Ghanatam Prapta Sakalyana Gurnanavasya Bande Gurashri Charanaravrindam Prapta Sakalyana Gurnanavasya Bande Gurashri Bande Gurashri Charanaravrindam Bande Gurashri Charanaravrindam Bande Gurashri Charanaravrindam Bande Gurashri Charanaravrindam Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nritya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Mahaprabhu Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Bande Gurashri Charanaravrindam Shri Vigrahara Dhana Nityanana Shringaratanma Diramajanado Juktasya Bhaktamsya Neyunjatapi Bande Gurashri Charanaravrindam Chaturvedha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Sadvana Triptan Hari Bhakta Shanga Chaturvedha Bhagavat Prasada Satana Triptan Hridaiva Tripti Bhajata Shadeva Bande Gurashri Charanaravrindam Shiradhikama Bhavayara Para Madhura Leela Gunarupa Namna Shiradhikama Madhura Leela Pratikshana Sa Dhanalalupasya Bande Gurashri Charanaravrindam Bande Gurashri Charanaravrindam Nekunja Yono Ratikeli Siddhai Yaya Liveri Jokte Apekshaniya Nekunja Yono Tatrati Daksha Otivalabhasya Bande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Sachadharidena Shamasta Shastri Uktastatthava Gataiva Sadhavi. Kintu Prabhurja Priya Eva Tasya Bande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Yasya Prasadan Bhagavat Prasadam. Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi. Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi. Yayam Suvam Tasya Yasastin Sandhyam Bande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Bande Gurashi Charanara. Yayam Stuvam Tasya Yasastin Sandhyam Bande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Nama. Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Patatari Shatarine. Namaste Shanavadi. Jaya Shri Krishna Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Chaitanya Nityananda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama
Namamishwaram Satchitanandarupam Lasatkundalam Gokule Brajamanam. Yasodabhiyolukhaladhavamanam Paramrishtam atyantato drutya gopya. Rudam tamohu netra yugmam mrijantam Karamboja yugmena satanka netram. Muhuswasakam patrirekanka kantha Stitagraivam damodaram bhaktibaddham. Iti driksvalilabir anandakunde Swagosham nimajantam akhyapayantam. Tadiyeshitadnyeshu bhaktairjitatvam Puna prematastam sata vrittivande. Varam deva moksham na mokshavadim va न चान्यं वृणेऽहं वरे सदपीह इदं ते वपुर्नादा गोपालबालं सदा मे मनस्यावि राष्ट्रं किमन्यै इदं ते मुखाम्बुजम् अत्यन्तनीलै वृतं कुन्तलै स्निग्धरक्तैश गोप्या मोहचुम्बितं बिम्बरक्ताधरं मे मनस्याविराष्टम् अलं लक्ष्यलाभै नमो देवदामोदरनन्तविष्णो प्रसीद प्रभो दुःखजालाब्धिमग्नम् कृपादृष्टिवृष्ट्यातिदिनं बतानो गृहाणेश मामज्ञम् एदक्षिदृश्या कुबेरात्मजौ बद्धमुतैव यद्वान् त्वया मोचितौ भक्तिभाजौ कृतौ च तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वकाम्ये प्रयच्छ न मोक्षे ग्रहो मेऽस्ति दामोदरेह नमस्तेऽस्तु धाम्ने स्फुरादीप्तिदाम्ने त्वदीयोदराय विश्वस्य धाम्ने नमो राधिकायै त्वदीयप्रियायै नमो अनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यम् नमो राधिकायै त्वदीयप्रियायै नमो अनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यम् हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Damodar Radha Damodar Radha Damodar Radhe. Jaya Radha Nilamadha Radha Nilamadha Radha Nilamadha Radhe. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Astakam ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajagachala Satara Satara Shri Shishimad His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vinda ki jai. Ramacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Shikoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Godant Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapura Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai. Jamuna Maya ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanand Damodar-astakam ki jai. Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Patita Pavane ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhattini Sumata Bhattini Smartaya Namaste Sasana Namaste.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Praladhaladadaine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shilatankanakalaye. Yito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yato yato yami tato Narsimha. Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha. Narasimhamadim Sharanam Prapadye. Narasimhamadim Sharanam Prapadye. Tava तव करकमलवरेणकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गां दलिता हिरण्यकशिपो तनुभृङ्गां केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल
सिंहदेव भगवान की जय। वृन्दाये तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णुभक्तिप्रदेवी सत्यव्रताय नमो नमः। वृन्दाये तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णुभक्तिप्रदेवी सत्यव्रताय नमो नमः। वृन्दाये तुलसीदेवी महारानी की जय।
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः राधा कृष्ण सेवा सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी जे तुम्हारा शरण लो तर वांछ पूर्ण हो मारा शरण लो तर वांछ पूर्ण हो कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोरा ये अभिलाष विलास कुंजे दियोवा अभिलाष कुंजे दियोवा गायाने हेरी भो सदा युगल रूपरासी गायाने हेरी भो सदा युगल रूपरासी ये निवेदन धरो सखीरानुगत करो धन धरो सखीरानुगत करो सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी दीन कृष्ण दासे को ये न मोरा होय श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी सदा ये न भासी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे
पानी ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं
पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे
कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम
Vrindaye Tulsi Devaya Priyaye Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Sachirataya Namo Namah. Vrindaye Tulsi Devaya Priyaye Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Sachirataya Namo Namah. Vrindaye Tulsi Devaya Priyaye Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Sachirataya Namo Namah. Vrindaye Tulsi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Beloved of Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire is to obtain the service of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has his wishes fulfilled. Bestowing your mercy upon him, you make him a resident in Vrindavan. My desire is to also grant residence of pleasure grows to Shri Vrindavan and Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of the Kaufman temples of Raja. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maidservant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna prays, but always from the love of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam Ki Jai. Cheto Darpanam Arjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shri Rakai Ravya Chandra Kavitaranam Vidya Badhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipradam Purnam Vitasvadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Saktis Tatrapi Tadya Vitaks Maranina Kala Etadrisi Tavakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaivam Jasi Samhajanina Anuraga Trinada Pisani Chena Tarura Pisa Istuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Sundarim Kavitamba Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavatat Bhakti Rahaitu Ki Twai Ai Nandatanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Visame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tava Padapankajastita Dulisad Visam Vichintaya Nayanam Galada Surudaraya Vadanam Gadgadurudaya Chila Pulaka Isitam Vapu Kada Tavanamagrahane Bhavishyati Yugai Nadhinte Chaksusa Pabrasayitam Sunyayitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahename Aslishyava Padaratam Pinastumam Adasanam Marmahato Karotuva Yata Tatava Vidatato Lampato Mat Pranatat Natastu Saeva Naparaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam Ki Jai Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutani Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Oh, my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of flesh. and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one could chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Oh my Lord. Lord, I don't want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj, Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I've fallen to this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishnu Shri Guru Pranama prayers Ki Jai. The 10 offenses to his holy name. 1. The last-minute devotees who have dedicated their lives to propagating holy names to the Lord. 2. Consider names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to ignore independent names, Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination. 6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruit of activities of karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. 10. To not have faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion, full of fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpa Turabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevcha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vaishnava Thakur Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhuti Srimati Bhakti Shri Guru Pranama prayers Ki Jai. Om Aganya Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Maritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swabadantikam Mandeham Shri Guru Shri Jitaha Pachikamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishaka Devitam Sa Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Praskatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namini Shivasavani Videvi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhakti Da Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Ya Sakshat Murtaye Virlambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Namo Sachitananda Namine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate Gauravir Bhava Bhumestwam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Sri Jagannatayate Namaha Zukalpa Kripasundupye Bacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurachase Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Suratur Pangur Mama Manda Mater Gati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vindaranya Kalpadramadaha Shimad Ratnagada Simasanastito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prastali Bihi Sevyamano Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsiva Tatatastita Karsan Venuswanir Gopir Gopinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai. Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadi Radhe Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakasat Masukalpa Vriksha Laksa Vrite Susurabir Abhipaliantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambrama Sevyamana Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kvanantam Aravinda Dalayataksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobham Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvana Malyavam Se Ratnam Gadam Pranay Keli Kalavilasam Shamam Chibangala Lita Nita Prakasam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalandri Vrittimanti Pashyanti Bhanti Kayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujwala Vigrahasya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedesa Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Satavatsara Sampragam Yova Yoratapi Manaso Manipungamanam Sopyasti Yat Prapadasimya Vichintya Tatve Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chaitam Jagadanda Kote Yes, Chakti Rasti Jagadanda Chayayadanta Andanta Rasta Paramanu Chayanta Rastam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusa Suktarya Meva Nigama Pratitastuvanti Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabis Tabilya Eva Nicharupa Tayakalabi Goloka Eva Nivasat Akilatma Bhuto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidesa Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menatistana Navataram Akarur Bhuvanesukin Swayam Yo Govinda Mahadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhuto Jagananda Koti Kotisva Sesa Vasudadi Vibhuti Benam Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Sesa Bhutam Govinda Mahadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Yasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Tragunya Tad Visaya Veda Vitaya Manam Sattva Valambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govinda Mahadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasu Praninam Patifulam Smaratam Upetya Lila Yatena Bhuvanani Jaya Yajasram Govinda Maadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nijitamni Tale Chitasya Devi Mahesu Haridama Sutesu Tesu Te Prabhavani Jaya Vitasya Yena Govinda Maadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shistesta Te Pralaya Sada Vasaktireka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vivarti Durga Ichana Rupam Abhyasya Chitesta Tesa Govinda Maadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yatada Divikara Vishesha Yoga Sanjayate Nahita Tapritakasti Hetu Yasam Bhutama Pitatasam Apaitikaryat Govinda Amadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Departure Devita Santaram Abhyapetya Dipayate Vivita Hita Samanu Dharma Yastadra Geva Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govinda Amadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narnava Jale Bhajatisma Yoga Nedram Ananta Jagadam Saroma Kupa Adhara Saktim Avalambya Param Samurtim Govinda Amadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasita Kalamatavalamya Jivanti Loma Villaja Jagadandanata Vishnur Mahansahi Yasya Kalavishesu Govinda Amadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Basmanya Tasma Sakaleshan Jesu Teja Swiyam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitatva Tatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadada Vidanu Karta Govinda Amadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Pala Vyugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dwande Pranama Samayesa Nagaradi Raja Vignan Vihantam Alamasa Jagatrayasya Govinda Amadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahika Ganamambu Muruti Sascha Kailasta Takma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govinda Amadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschak Suresa Savita Sakalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Shesa Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govinda Amadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmo Papa Nichaya Shrutayastapamsi Brahma Dikita Patadagava Deyasta Jivaha Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava Govinda Amadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yastindra Gopam Atavendra Mahoswa Karma Bandhan Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidhati Kinchitra Bhakti Bhaja Govinda Amadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Bitti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaura Vasevya Bhava Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisim Tanamapurete Govinda Amadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Sriyakantak Brahma Purisha Kalpatarava Jumabu Mischintamani Ganama Hito Amritam Kataganam Natyam Kamanam Apibam Sipriyasaki Chiranandam Jatiparam Apitas Apicha Sayatra Shiradi Bihisha Vidisirabi Byasti Sumahan Nimesa Dakyuvava Jitina Hiyatar Pisamayas Vaji Swita Dvipam Tamaham Ihugolakam Itiam Vidantas Te Santakshati Viracharakati Ye Chi Guru Vastak appears, DJ. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy. Just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, and so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. Are from my respectful basis to lotus feet, such spiritual masters, the ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting a holy name, dancing, ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind. Sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. Are from my respectful basis unto lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master always hear and chant about the unlimited conscious compassion of Madhava. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. Are from my respectful basis unto lotus feet, such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful basis unto lotus feet, as such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conscious passion of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful basis unto lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting the gopis who at different times made different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble basis unto lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master to be honored as much the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful basis unto lotus feet of such spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Shri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I offer my respectful basis on the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Bol. So we're continuing in the Rasa Lila dance, and so we're we'll repeat a little bit of it again and finish it today. Krishna is speaking to the gopis, and he says, "My dear friends, I can understand that you have left your homes without the permission of your guardians. Therefore, I think your mothers, your fathers, your elder brothers, and even your sons, and what to speak of your husbands, must be very anxious to find you. As long as you are here, they must be searching in different places, and their minds must be very agitated. So don't tarry. Don't waste your time. Please go back and make them peaceful." When the gopis appeared to be a little bit disturbed and angry from hearing the free advice of Krishna, they diverted their attention to looking at the beauty of the forest. At that time, the whole forest was illuminated by the bright shining of the moon, and the air was blowing very silently over the blossoming flowers, and the green leaves of the trees were moving in the breeze. Krishna took the opportunity of their looking at the forest to advise them. "I think you have come out to see the beautiful Vrindavana forest on this night," he said. "But you must now be satisfied, so return to your homes without delay. I understand that you are all very chaste women, so now that you have seen the beautiful atmosphere of the Vrindavana forest, please return home and engage in the faithful service of your respectful husbands. Some of you must have babies by this time, although you are very young. You must have left your small babies at home, and they must be crying. Please immediately go back home and just feed them with your breast milk. I can also understand that you have very great affection for me, and out of that transcendental affection, you have come here, hearing my playing on the flute. Your feelings of love and affection for me are very appropriate because I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All living creatures are my parts and parcels, and naturally they are affectionate to me. So this affection for me is very welcome, and I congratulate you for this. Now you can go back to your homes. Another thing I must explain to you is that for a chaste woman, service to the husband without duplicity is the best religious principle. Not only should a woman be faithful and chaste to her husband, but she should also be affectionate to the friends of her husband, obedient to the father and mother of her husband, and affectionate to younger brothers of her husband. And most importantly, a woman must take care of her children. In this way, yeah.
We finished that page.
No, I know. I'm repeating it because it's very important. In this way, Krishna explained the duty of a woman. He also stressed the point of serving the husband, even if he is not of very good character, or even if he is not very rich or fortunate, or even if he is old and invalid on account of continued diseases. Whatever her husband's condition, a woman should not divorce her husband if she actually desires to be elevated to the higher planetary systems after leaving this body. Besides that, it is considered abominable in society if a woman is unfaithful and goes searching for another man. Such habits will deter a woman from being elevated to the heavenly planets, and the results of such habits are very degrading. A married woman should not search for a paramour, for this is not sanctioned by the Vedic principles of life. If you think that you are very much attached to me and you want my association, I advise you not to personally try to enjoy me. It is better for you to go home, simply talk about me and think of me, and by this process of constantly remembering me and chanting my names, you will surely be elevated to the spiritual platform. There is no need to stand near me. Please go back home. The instruction given herein by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the gopis was not at all sarcastic. Such instructions should be taken very seriously by all honest women. The chastity of women is specifically stressed herein by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, this principle should be followed by any serious woman who wants to be elevated to a higher status of life. Krishna is the center of all affection for all living creatures. When this affection is developed for Krishna, one surpasses and transcends all Vedic injunctions. This was possible for the gopis because they saw Krishna face to face. This is not possible for any woman in the conditioned state. Unfortunately, sometimes a rascal, following the philosophy of monism or oneness, very irresponsibly takes advantage of this rasa lila to imitate the behavior of Krishna with the gopis, entice many innocent women, and mislead them in the name of spiritual realization. As a warning, Lord Krishna has herein hinted that what was possible for the gopis is not possible for ordinary women. Although a woman can actually be elevated by advanced Krishna consciousness, she should not be enticed by an impostor who says that he is Krishna. She should concentrate her devotional activities in chanting about Krishna and meditating upon him, as is advised herein. One should not follow the men called sahajiyas, the so-called devotees who take everything very lightly. When Krishna spoke in such a discouraging way to the gopis, they became very sad, for they thought that their desire to enjoy the rasa dance with Krishna would be frustrated. Thus they became full of anxiety. Out of great sadness, the gopis began to breathe very heavily. Instead of looking at Krishna face to face, they bowed their heads and looked at the ground, and they began to draw various types of curved lines on the ground with their toes. They were shedding heavy tears, and their cosmetic decorations were being washed from their faces. The water from their eyes mixed with the kunkuma on their breasts and fell to the ground. They could not say anything to Krishna, but simply stood there silently. By their silence, they expressed that their hearts were grievously wounded. The gopis were not ordinary women. In essence, they were on an equal level with Krishna. They are his eternal associates, as it is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. They are expansions of the pleasure potency of Krishna, and as his potency, they are non-different from him. Although they were depressed by the words of Krishna, they did not like to use harsh words against him. Yet they wanted to rebuke him for his unkind words, and therefore they began to speak in faltering voices. They did not like to use such harsh words against Krishna because he is their most dearmost. He is their dearmost, their heart and soul. The gopis had only Krishna within their hearts. They were completely surrendered and dedicated. Naturally, when they heard the unkind words, they tried to reply, but in the attempt, torrents of tears fell from their eyes. Finally, they managed to speak. Krishna, they said, you are very cruel. You should not talk like that. We are full-fledged surrendered souls. Please accept us and don't talk in that cruel way. Of course, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead and can do whatever you like, but it is not worthy of your position to treat us in such a cruel way. We have come to you, leaving everything behind just to take shelter of your lotus feet. We know that you are completely independent and can do whatever you like, but we request you, don't reject us. We are your devotees. You should accept us as Lord Narayana accepts his devotees. There are many devotees of the Lord Narayana who worship him for salvation, and he awards them salvation. Similarly, how can you reject us when we have no shelter other than your lotus feet? Oh, dear Krishna, they continued, you are the supreme instructor. There is no doubt about it. Your instructions to women to be faithful to their husbands and merciful to their children, to take care of household affairs, and to be obedient and to the elder members of the family are surely affairs, and to be obedient to the elder members of are surely just according to the tenets of the Shastras. But we know that one may perfectly observe all these instructions of the Shastras by keeping oneself under the protection of your lotus feet. Our husbands, friends, family members, and children are all dear and pleasing to us only because of your presence, for you are the super soul of all living creatures. Without your presence, one is worthless. When you leave the body immediately dies, And according to the injunction of the Shastras, a dead body must immediately be thrown into a river or burned. Therefore, ultimately, you are the dearmost personality in this world. By placing our faith and love in your personality, we are assured of never being bereft of husband, friends, sons, or daughters. If a woman accepts you as the supreme husband, then she will never be bereft of her husband, as in the bodily concept of life. If we accept you as our ultimate husband, then there is no question of being separated, divorced, or widowed. You are the eternal husband, eternal son, eternal friend, and eternal master, and one who enters into a relationship with you is eternally happy. Since you are the teacher of all religious principles, your lotus feet have to be worshipped first. Accordingly, the Shastras state, Acharya Upasana, the worship of your lotus feet is the first principle. Besides that, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, you are the only enjoyer, you are the only proprietor, and you are the only friend. As such, we have come to you, leaving aside all so-called friends, society, and love, and now you have become our enjoyer. Let us be everlastingly enjoyed by you. Be our proprietor, for that is your natural claim, and be our supreme friend, for you are naturally so. Let us thus embrace you as the supreme beloved. Then the gopis told lotus-eyed Krishna, please do not discourage our long-cherished desires to have you as our husband. Any intelligent man who cares for his own self-interest reposes all his loving spirit in you. Persons who are simply misled by the external energy, who want to be satisfied by false concepts, try to enjoy themselves apart from you. The so-called husband, friend, son, daughter, father, and mother are all simply sources of material misery. No one is made happy in this material world by having a so-called father, mother, husband, son, daughter, and friend. Although the father and mother are expected to protect the children, there are many children who are suffering for want of food and shelter. There are many good physicians, but when a patient dies, no physician can revive him. There are many means of protection, but when one is doomed, none of the protective measures can help. And without your protection, the so-called sources of protection simply become sources of contaminated distress. We therefore appeal to you, dear Lord of all lords. Please do not kill our long-cherished desires to have you as our supreme husband. Dear Krishna, as women, we are certainly satisfied when our hearts are engaged in the activities of family affairs, but our hearts have already been stolen by you. We can no longer engage them in family affairs. Besides that, although you have repeatedly asked us to return home, and that is a very appropriate instruction, unfortunately we have been stunned here. Our legs have no power to move a step from your lotus feet. Therefore, if even at your request we return home, what shall we do there? We have lost all our ability to act without you. Instead of engaging our hearts in family affairs as women, we have now developed a different type of lust, which is continually blazing in our hearts. Now we request you, dear Krishna, to extinguish that fire with your beautiful smile and the transcendental vibration emanating from your lips. If you do not agree to do us this favor, we shall certainly be burned in the fire of separation. In that condition, we shall simply think of you and your beautiful features and give up our bodies immediately. In that way, we think it will be possible for us to reside at your lotus feet in the next life. Dear Krishna, if you say that if we go home, our respective husbands will satisfy the lusty flame of our desire, we can only say that that is no longer possible. You have given us a chance to be enjoyed by you in the forest and have touched our breasts once in the past, which we accepted as a blessing, as do the goddesses of fortune who are enjoyed in the Vaikuntha lokas by you. Since we have tasted this transcendental enjoyment, we are no longer interested in going to anyone but you. for the satisfaction of our lust. Dear Krishna, the lotus feet of the goddess of fortune are always worshipped by the demigods, although she is always resting on your chest in the Vaikuntha planets. She underwent great austerity and penance to have some shelter at your lotus feet, which are always covered by tulsi leaves. Your lotus feet are the proper shelter for your servitors and the goddess of fortune. Instead of abiding on your chest, comes down. Your lotus feet are the proper shelter for your servitors and the goddesses of fortune. Instead of abiding on your chest, comes down and worships your lotus feet. We have now placed ourselves under the dust of your lotus feet. Please do not reject us, for we are fully surrendered souls. Dear Krishna, you are known as Hari, for we are fully surrendered. You are known as Hari. You destroy all the miseries of all living entities, specifically of those who have left their homes and family attachment and have completely taken to you. We have left our homes with the hope that we shall completely devote and dedicate our lives to your service. We are simply begging to be engaged in your service as your servants. We do not wish to ask you to accept us as your wives. Simply accept us as your maidservants, since you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead and like to enjoy the Parakiya Rasa and are famous as a transcendental woman hunter. We have come to satisfy your transcendental desires. We are also after our own satisfaction, for simply by looking at your smiling face, we have become very lusty. We have come before you decorated with all ornaments and dress, but still you embrace us. All our garments and beautiful features remain incomplete. But until you embrace us, all our garments and beautiful features remain incomplete. You are the Supreme Person, and if you complete our dressing attempt as the Purusha Bhushana, or the male ornament, then all our desires and bodily decorations are complete. Dear Krishna, we have simply been captivated by seeing you with tilaka and with earrings, and by seeing your beautiful face covered with scattered hair and bearing your extraordinary smile. Not only that, but we are also attracted by your arms, which always give assurance to the surrendered souls. And although we are also attracted by your chest, which is always embraced by the goddess of fortune, we do not wish to take her position. We shall simply be satisfied by being your maidservants. If you accuse us, however, of encouraging prostitution, then we can only ask, where is that woman within the three worlds who is not captivated by your beauty and the rhythmic songs vibrated by your transcendental flute? Within these three worlds, there is no distinction between two men and women in relation to you. Because both men and women belong to the marginal potency or prakriti. No one is actually the enjoyer or the male. Everyone is meant to be enjoyed by you. There is no woman within these three worlds who cannot but deviate from her path of chastity once she is attracted to you, because your beauty is so sublime that not only men and women, but also cows, birds, beasts, and even trees, fruits and flowers, everyone and everything become enchanted. And what to speak of ourselves? It is, however, definitely decided that as Lord Vishnu is always protecting the demigods from the onslaught of demons, so you have also advented in Vrindavana just to give the residents protection from all kinds of distress. O dear friend of the distressed, kindly place your hand on our burning breasts as well as on our heads, because we have surrendered unto you as your eternal maidservants. If you think, however, that your lotus-like palms might be burned to ashes if placed on our burning breasts, let us assure you that your palms will feel pleasure instead of pain, as the lotus flower, although very delicate and soft, enjoys the scorching heat of the sun. Upon hearing the anxious plea of the gopis, the Supreme Personality of Godhead smiled, and being very kind to the gopis, the Lord, although self-sufficient, began to embrace them and kiss them as they desired. When Krishna, smiling, looked at the faces of the gopis, the beauty of their faces became 100 times enhanced. When he was enjoying them in their midst, he appeared just like the full moon surrounded by millions of shining stars. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, surrounded by hundreds of gopis and decorated with a flower garland of many colors, began to wander within the Vrindavana forest, sometimes singing to himself and sometimes singing with the gopis. In this way, the Lord and the gopis reached the cool, sandy bank of the Yamuna, where there were lilies and lotus flowers. In such a transcendental atmosphere, the gopis and Krishna began to enjoy one another. While they were walking on the bank of the Yamuna, Krishna would sometimes put his arms around a gopi's head, breast, or waist, pinching one another and joking and looking at another they enjoyed. When Krishna touched the bodies of the gopis, their lust to embrace him increased. They all enjoyed these pastimes. Thus, the gopis were blessed and with all mercy by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for they enjoyed his company without a tinge of mundane sex life. So there might be some pinching, there might be some kissing, there might be some embracing, but there's no sex. Why? Because everyone's eternal in the spiritual world. They don't have to reproduce. And the nature of the love is pure love and dedication to Krishna. So the gopis have no desire for sense gratification. Their only desire is for Krishna to use their body and everything related to it in his pleasure, for his pleasure only. So that's impossible for most people to realize that there can be no personal desire for sense gratification, that they consider that their body belongs to Krishna, and everything that they do, either decorating themselves, dressing very nicely, and having nice types of fragrances and other things, it's not meant for their pleasure. It's meant only for the pleasure of Krishna. It's impossible for people to realize that in the material world, unless they become interested in hearing authoritative knowledge about Krishna. The gopis, however, soon began to feel very proud, thinking themselves to be the most fortunate women in the universe due to being favored by the company of Krishna. Lord Krishna, who is known as Keshava, could immediately understand their pride caused by their great fortune of enjoying him personally. And in order to show them his causeless mercy and to curb their false pride, he immediately disappeared from the scene, exhibiting his opulence of renunciation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always full with 6 kinds of opulences, and this is an instance of the opulence of renunciation. This renunciation confirms Krishna's total non-attachment. He is always self-sufficient and is not dependent on anything. This is the platform on which his transcendental pastimes are enacted. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 29th chapter of Krishna, the Rasa dance introduction. Hari Bol. Well, this is a lot of information, and you can see how Prabhupada is instructing us and at the same time giving us a glimpse of what the Rasa Lila dance is and the transcendental pastimes that are going on eternally in the spiritual world. No other scripture has any information like this. You can only get it in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, we should spend our whole life hearing and chanting glories of Krishna, because that is our ticket back to Godhead. It's not our ticket back to Godhead is not studying AI or IT or stock market or flipping houses. That's not what are meant for in the human body. The human body is specifically meant for self-realization. And self-realization includes understanding our relationship with Krishna and understanding Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Once we have this self-realization, real self-realization, not Mayavad nonsense or atheistic nonsense, then Krishna protects us. And we are always under his divine, what you would call protection and instruction. And if we become proud, he immediately will correct that. Just like here we see, because he doesn't like devotees to be proud. He likes them to be very humble and meek. And meek doesn't mean weak. Meek means that you don't have a nasty bone in your body, right? You always speak nicely. You always are respectful. You always are humble. But you're not a coward. And if violence is necessary, well, you can do that too. Just like Arjuna and his brothers, it became necessary. So they didn't shy away from it. They were trained to protect the principles of Krishna consciousness and Varnashram system, and protect cows, and can protect elders, and protect women, protect children, and protect brahmanas. So this is the eternal culture that we're hearing about now, not this mundane nonsense culture. And this eternal culture is full of joy, and the joy has no limits to it. So there's no boredom. There's no same old, same old. Everything is new all the time. Everything is increasing. Everything is full of transcendental bliss. And the devotees are so enraptured by Krishna that they are not disturbed by anything, because nothing can separate them from meditating on Krishna all the time. So that is pure love for the Lord. And the Lord loves it himself. He's very happy when he sees devotees like this. Okay, so now when he starts talking about the chastity of women, that's extremely important. Now, it's not only women have to be chaste, men have to be chaste too, right? It's not just an instruction for women. So what does it mean to be chaste? That means that when you accept the responsibility of marriage, then you have to maintain it with honor and duty, and with genuine spiritual emotions of appreciation and humility and steadiness. The steadiness is very important, because it's very easy for people to walk away from something, especially responsibilities. It's very difficult to maintain responsibilities, right? But what is our real responsibility? Our real responsibility is self-realization and understanding our relationship with Krishna. It's not enjoying the mundaneness of family life. So what is the difference between mundane family life and spiritual family life? Everybody in the family has the same goal, that is to please Guru and Krishna, and to be always a humble servant of the Lord, and in the association of devotees. So to get that consensus understanding, a family that prays together stays together, that the whole ethos or the whole culture in family life is practicing Krishna consciousness, whether in the temple and especially in the house also. Right? So when we become, let's say, confused about what our real duties are in life, then you see that the family starts separating. You know, it begins with distance. Like you send your kid to a college that's on the other side of the United States. That creates distance, right? And that breaks, oftentimes it breaks the regulated life, you know, because now the child is overwhelmed with studying to become a doctor or a lawyer or an architect or this or that, right? Previously, kids were educated in the village, and they would learn practical things, how to grow food, how to take care of cows and bulls, how to take care of fruit trees, and how to cook, how to keep the house very simple and clean, and all these home science concepts, and the men and the women work together. Sometimes they work together in the fields, and everything was done with cooperation and and keeping things real simple, right? So it would end up with 3 or 4 generations in the same house or the same house area, and there was passation of culture from the grandparents to the grandchildren, and the parents to the children. There was the culture was kept alive. What's happening today is that the whole thing is getting broken, and it's because of distance. Say, the more distance there is, the more it gets broken. So we have to think about these things. I mean, what is our real purpose in life? As we see here, our real purpose should be to understand our relationship with Krishna and practice it and grow in it, not to let it slip past us due to mundane activities. So when the gopis say, "Dear Krishna, we have simply been captivated by seeing you with tilaka and with earrings, and by seeing your beautiful face covered with scattered hair and bearing your extraordinary smile." So this is real attraction, because Krishna is, and when we come to the temple and we get a chance to see the deities decorated very nicely, it's attractive, it's charming, it is soothing to the soul, because that's who we are. We came from the spiritual world. That was our original culture, but we became bewildered. And a very important point here is being made. We're bewildered by false concepts. Where does he say that? He says, this is what's ruining the cultures. It's accepting false concepts, and modern education is full of them. False concepts, things that are impossible to achieve, things that they make goals that are impossible to achieve, and then they make excuses why they're not achieving it. But basically, people get cheated by these false concepts, and it ruins their spiritual life. Where does he say that?
Somewhere in the middle, Maharaj. It says persons who are simply misled by the external energy, who want to be satisfied by false concepts.
Yeah, where is that? What page? That I would say that is like the most significant statement here for us to take away today. Anyway, just read it again.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Persons who are simply misled by the external energy, who want to be satisfied by false concepts, try to enjoy themselves.
Want to be satisfied by false concepts. See, that's a huge statement. We should think about that today. Who want to be
satisfied
by false concepts.
Yeah.
That is the situation today. And most people are in that situation. They want to be illusioned by false concepts. Okay, so we'll stop right there. Are there any questions? Yeah, okay, I see it. Persons who are simply misled by the external energy, who want to be satisfied by false concepts, try to enjoy themselves apart from you. That's the whole point. That is a description of what's going on today in this world. And this is ruining Vedic culture. It's ruining people's lives. It's ruining families. Okay. Haribol. Okay, so we'll have Guru Puja then. That's on page 229. Haribol. Who's going to chant? Oh, you can chant. You want to chant? Huh? Oh, okay. Okay, you can chant at 7:15. Yeah.
So Maharaj?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, it's very to conceive this kind of things is very difficult. But so when we say that, yeah, when we compare the spiritual with the material thing, but if you are in a material world, it's very natural for everyone to just
Follow the
what?
follow the masses.
Follow the masses or something like. So like it's just like example saying, okay, you are touching to the hot thing, but say, oh, this is not hot because the spiritual is something different. So it is hot because we feel that in material world it feels hot, but if we say, oh, this is not hot, this is in the spiritual world is something different. So those kind of things. So it is just an example. So many things like we do, a body. We are in the desert and we feel very hot, but in material world it's not hot. Or sorry, in the spiritual world it may not be that hot. You're just in material world, that's why you feel that way. But spiritual world is totally different. So this kind of duality, I mean, things. Very
Well,
hard
wait a minute. You have to ask yourself a question. Which world do you want to be in?
Obviously spiritual world.
So then what's the problem then?
No. So the problem is not
No, the
just
problem
to
is,
understand.
we are still attached to the material world. That's the problem. If you say, I want to be in the spiritual world, but at the same time I'm attached to the material world, so that's the problem. So you have to decide, do you want to stay in the material world or you want to go to the spiritual world? You cannot go to the spiritual world as long as you're attached to the material world.
Yeah, it's not about attachment, because when you try to understand that we should not think too much logically, then it's easy. Otherwise,
No, what do you mean think too much? This is logical, that we belong in the spiritual world. That's the highest logic. That we have an eternal relationship with Krishna. It's the highest logic. All these other relationships that we have, they're not eternal. In the material world, all those relationships are not eternal. See, the problem is, as long as we are attached to sense gratification, it's very difficult to understand this. Very, very difficult. When that attachment starts breaking down, then you begin to understand. So, this is the, let's call it, the struggle that's going on in your mind right now. And not only your mind, my mind also, and everybody's mind. You know, do we really believe that there's a spiritual world? Do we really believe that Krishna is Supreme Personality Godhead? Or should we just follow the masses, you know, and just go along our merry way and just pay very little attention to spiritual life? You know, we just are playing a game with it every once in a while, but then the real thing is sense gratification.
It's not about the question about the belief, Maharaj. So I believe in the spiritual world. That's complete. I believe in Krishna. It's not a problem. Problem comes when
You believe in it, but you're still attached. You're still attached to the material world.
Yes.
You have to break that attachment.
Yeah.
How do you break it? You break it by hearing and chanting and engaging practically in devotional service. Otherwise, you'll never break it. 50 years from now, you'll have the same doubts.
Yeah.
Right? So the idea is that you have to prepare yourself to break, to have a complete break from these attachments. Now, it doesn't happen overnight, but it should be your goal at a certain point, especially from the point that you reach 50. From that point on, you have to break. Otherwise, you're not going to break anything. You'll go right up to the moment of death with the same attachments. How old are you now?
47.
Okay, you got 3 years. There's 3 years left. After 50, you have to start breaking everything. Breaking attachments to the material world. I mean, you're already starting to do that, but you got to get real serious about it. And you'll do it. You'll do it. Unless you like to suffer, then you won't do it. You have to understand, everything in the material world is temporary. It's not going to last forever. You know,
Yeah.
the people, the relationships, all that stuff, it's temporary. It could end at any time. Look what's happening in Ukraine. Every morning in Kiev, people drive their kids to school. So yesterday, one lady was driving her kid to school, dropped the kid off, and then the bombs started falling, right? On the way home, she was killed. The kid was saved because in school they have these underground, places where they can stay when there's a bombing. So now there's bombing in Kiev, right? So now you just do your normal job, right? And you can die at any moment. See, so you see, there's nothing predictable in the material world because we don't know what our karma is until it actually happens. Right? Therefore, you should take complete shelter of Krishna, and then he'll put your karma on hold. That's what happens at the moment of initiation. It's put on hold so that you can function. Without being transcendental to the modes of material nature, you cannot engage in devotional service. So if you follow the regulative principles strictly, you're free of the influence of the modes of material nature, then you can make some spiritual advancement. Okay? But after initiation, if we keep breaking the rules, then suffering comes back again. So you have to think about it. I mean, why do you take initiation? It's to get this freedom from the modes of material nature so that you can advance in your understanding of Krishna. Otherwise, if you're just in mundane activities, you don't understand anything about Krishna, and you're not even protected by the Lord. You're under the influence of the demigods, right? And you have your whole karma to deal with. See, so that lady that got blown up by this bomb that fell, Russia is bombing Kiev right now, right? And people are dying, just by taking their kid to school. They come back, they're dead. So that they have karma, but if you surrender to Krishna, then that karma is put on hold, so that you can function in Krishna consciousness. And Krishna consciousness is all about self-realization, which includes understanding yourself in relationship to Krishna. That's the highest self-realization. So you don't want that? Fine. That's, you want to keep attached to temporary things that are going to all disappear at one point. Right? You're going to disappear at one point, at least in this body. And then you'll have another body, right? Maybe with 4 legs and a tail, right? So, why put yourself in that position? You have such a it's close enough to end the whole thing, in this lifetime. Okay, go ahead.
Shri Guru Charana
padma kevala bakati sarma. Bando moi savadhana mate. Jahara prasade bhar eva vatoriya jan. Krishna prapti ho jahan aate. Guru mukha padma vakya chitete koriya kya. Arana kori ho mane asha. Shri Guru charane rati aise uttama gati. Jai prasade pure sarva asha. Chatudana dilo jai janme janme prabhu se.
Janme janme Prabhu se.
Divya Jnana Reda Prakasito. Prema Bhakti Jaha hoite avidya vinasa jate.
Prema bhakti hoite avidya vinasa jate.
Vede gaya jahara charito. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu.
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu
Lokanatha Loke Rajivana. Aha Prabhu Kora Doya Deha More Pada Chaya. Ebe Jasa Gusu Kribu Vana. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nitya Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gogopinath, Samakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Mayapur Dham ki jai, Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Ganga Maya ki jai, Jamuna Maya ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Namaste. The lotus feet of our spiritual
His lotus feet is the percussion that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mist, friend of the poor, the Lord, the master of the devotees. Master, be merciful unto me. Give me the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over three worlds.
We take shelter of the lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.